If you're trying to keep your winter veggies alive without building a full greenhouse, you've probably wondered, should I use row covers or a cold frame? I tested both in my organic garden through real frosts, and today I'll show you which one kept plants warmer, which was cheaper, and which I'd actually use again. Welcome back to the channel, friends. Today we're digging into a big question winter gardeners face every year. What's the best way to protect crops from frost without investing in a full greenhouse setup? Two of the most common tools are row covers and cold frames, but they work very differently and offer different advantages depending on your climate, your budget, and how hands-on you want to be with your garden. I'll walk you through how each method generally performs in real winter conditions. We'll look at typical temperature boosts, plant growth expectations, cost differences, and how much day-to-day attention each one requires. By the end of the video, you'll have a clear idea which option fits your gardening style best. Let's start with row covers. A row cover is a breathable, lightweight fabric, usually made of spun-bonded polypropylene, that drapes directly over crops or stretches across hoops. It acts like a thermal blanket, trapping a bit of warmth around the plants and shielding them from frost, wind, and even certain pests. Row covers are, honestly, incredibly versatile. You can cut them to any size, shape them around raised beds, move them easily, and store them without much space. They're also one of the most cost-effective frost protection options available, under $10 for a large sheet, which makes them especially appealing for beginner gardeners or anyone covering large garden plots. But they do have limitations. Heavier frost protection fabrics can reduce light levels, slowing growth during winter's already short days. And if row covers aren't secured properly, they can flutter, blow loose, or expose plants during windy weather. They also provide only moderate temperature increases. Cold frames work a bit differently. A cold frame is basically a small, bottomless greenhouse-like box with a clear lid. It might be built from wood and old windows, made from polycarbonate panels, or hey, you could just grab a ready-made kit. But, no matter the design, the goal is always the same. Trap that daytime heat and protect your plants from harsh winter weather. Cold frames actually create a more controlled microclimate than row covers do. They tend to hold warmth longer into the night, protect your plants from windburn, and buffer temperatures during those colder stretches. Plus, they can keep the soil warmer, which really encourages more active winter growth. However, they do take more effort to set, cost more upfront, $200 or more for a small size, and need regular attention. Cold frames have to be vented on sunny days to prevent overheating, even in the middle of winter. So yeah, they're not a totally hands-off solution. Okay, so picture two winter beds side by side. One is covered with a medium-weight row cover stretched over some simple hoops. The other sits under a solid cold frame with a clear lid that's angled toward the sun. Both setups protect plants, but, they do it in different ways. The row cover acts like a breathable shield, lightly trapping warmth and reducing frost exposure. The cold frame, on the other hand, creates a mini greenhouse environment, holding onto more heat and controlling the space around the plants much more effectively. These structural differences, honestly, lead to big variations in warmth, stability, and how much growth you can expect from your winter crops. In typical winter conditions, row covers usually provide a small but meaningful temperature buffer. On cold nights, the air under a medium-weight frost cover may stay about 2 to 4 degrees warmer than the surrounding temperature, enough to keep hardy greens alive and healthy during light to moderate frosts. Cold frames generally offer a stronger buffer. They can hold warmth 6 to 10 degrees above the outdoor temperature, and sometimes even more depending on the materials and how much sun they captured during the day. This extra protection helps preserve tenderer plants and, minimizes stress during those colder nights. However, cold frames do tend to heat up quickly in sunlight. Without venting, temperatures inside can spike far above what winter crops can tolerate. Row covers, because they breathe naturally, don't typically run into overheating issues. When it comes to plant growth, row covers tend to maintain steady but slower winter development. Crops like lettuce, spinach, or bok choy stay protected and harvestable, but growth often slows significantly during short days or cloudy stretches. So, cold frames create an environment that more closely resembles late fall conditions. Plants inside them can stay greener, recover faster from those chilly nights, and continue growing more actively even during the winter. The extra warmth and shelter mean your crops are often ready for harvest sooner and, honestly, they suffer a lot less visible stress. The trade-off is attention. Cold frames offer better growth conditions, but only if they're managed properly. Overheating or, leaving the lid unsecured during windy weather can compromise plant health really quickly. Cost is another major factor when choosing between the two. Cold frames cost more upfront, whether you build them or buy them. Even a simple DIY frame needs lumber and a clear top, which adds up compared to a roll of frost cloth. That said, cold frames tend to last for years, while row covers gradually wear out, tear, or degrade under UV exposure. So row covers win for affordability and flexibility, while cold frames can pay off over the long term if you want a more durable structure. In terms of convenience, row covers are the simplest frost protection method. You place them, secure them, and check on them occasionally. There's no venting, no hinges, and no rigid structure to store during warmer months. Cold frames require more involvement. You must vent them regularly, especially during sunny spells. You need to make sure the lid is secure before storms, and because they're physical structures, they take up storage space when not in use. Choosing between row covers and cold frames really depends on your goals. If you want something simple, affordable, and effective at keeping hardy crops alive, row covers are an excellent option. They require almost no extra work and provide reliable frost protection for most winter gardens. If you want maximum warmth, faster winter growth, and something close to a mini greenhouse effect, a cold frame is the better tool. It does demand more effort, but honestly, the results can be really impressive, especially if you're hoping to harvest greens all throughout the season. In many gardens, using both is actually the ideal combination. Row covers for those larger beds or tougher crops, and then cold frames for delicate winter greens or herbs that you want to harvest consistently. So, before we wrap up, if you've been enjoying videos that break down gardening techniques and help you choose the best tools for your space, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future guides and comparisons. To decide between row covers and cold frames, consider your climate, your budget, how much winter maintenance you're willing to take on, and whether your goal is simply protecting plants or actively growing them through the colder months. And now I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me which method you're planning to use this winter, or if you've tried one of these and had a good experience with it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.